The morning sun felt warm on David Kim's face as he loaded the last bag into the car. He smiled at his wife Sarah, who was checking the camping gear one more time. Their daughter Emma sat in the back seat with her headphones on, while their son Lucas bounced with excitement in the driveway. "Dad, can we go now, please?" Lucas asked for the third time that morning. The 12-year-old boy could barely contain his energy. He had been waiting for this camping trip for months. David laughed and ruffled his son's hair. "Yes, we can go now. Get in the car, buddy." The Kim family lived in Richmond, Virginia. David was 45 years old and worked as an accountant. Sarah was 42 and taught at the local elementary school. Emma was 16 and spent most of her time on her phone or with friends. Lucas was the youngest at 12, and he loved nature more than anything else in the world. This camping trip was special. David had planned it for 6 months. They were going to the Appalachian wilderness, to a beautiful spot David had visited as a young man. He remembered the tall trees, the clear streams, and the amazing views from the mountain trails. He wanted to share this with his family. The drive took 4 hours. Emma complained about the lack of cell phone signal after the first 2 hours. Sarah read a book in the passenger seat. Lucas pressed his face against the window, watching the landscape change from city buildings to open fields to thick forests. "Look at those trees," Lucas shouted every few minutes. He had his camera ready, hoping to photograph birds and animals. They arrived at the camping site in the early afternoon. The parking area was empty except for one other car. David felt pleased. He liked quiet places away from crowds. "This is it," David announced as he parked the car. "Welcome to paradise." Emma looked around at the trees and dirt. "This is paradise? There's no Wi-Fi here, Dad." Sarah gave her daughter a gentle push. "That's the point, honey. We're here to enjoy nature and spend time together." They unloaded the car and carried their bags to the campsite. David had reserved spot number 7, which was close to a small stream. The sound of running water made Lucas smile even wider. Setting up camp took 2 hours. David and Sarah worked on the large family tent, while Emma and Lucas gathered firewood. By the time everything was ready, the sun was getting lower in the sky. "Tomorrow we hike," David said as they sat around the campfire that evening. "I know a trail that goes up the mountain. The view from the top is incredible." Lucas could hardly sleep that night. He kept thinking about all the birds he might see. He had brought his photography book that showed different species. His dream was to photograph a rare bird that few people had seen. The next morning came with clear skies and cool air. Sarah made breakfast on the camping stove while David checked the hiking supplies. He packed water bottles, snacks, a first aid kit, a compass, a whistle, and a map. "Everyone needs to stay together," David said firmly as they started the hike. "This forest is big. If anyone gets separated, it could be dangerous." Emma rolled her eyes but nodded. Lucas promised to stay close. The trail started easy. It was wide and well marked with white paint on the trees. They walked through beautiful forest, with tall oak and pine trees surrounding them. Birds sang in the branches above. Lucas stopped every few minutes to take photos. After 2 hours of hiking, they reached a clearing with a magnificent view. They could see miles of green forest stretching in every direction. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks touching the clouds. "This is amazing," Sarah said, taking photos with her phone. Even Emma seemed impressed. She took a few selfies with the view behind her. They ate lunch at the clearing. David pointed out different landmarks and told stories about his first visit to these woods. Lucas listened carefully, his eyes wide with wonder. "Can we explore a little?" Lucas asked after lunch. "I heard a bird call that sounded unusual. It might be rare." David hesitated. "We should stick to the trail. Please, Dad? Just for a few minutes, I'll stay where you can see me." Sarah looked at David. "Let him look around a little. We can watch him from here." David finally agreed. "Okay, but stay within sight. Don't go far." Lucas grabbed his camera and walked toward the edge of the clearing. He moved slowly, listening for the bird call again. There it was, a strange whistling sound coming from deeper in the trees. He took a few more steps. The bird called again, slightly farther away. Lucas looked back. He could still see his family sitting in the clearing. Just a little farther, he thought. The forest was thick here. Lucas pushed through some bushes, following the sound. He was so focused on finding the bird that he didn't notice how far he had walked. The bird call came again, leading him deeper into the woods. Suddenly, Lucas realized he couldn't hear his family anymore. He looked around. The trees all looked the same. Which way had he come from? He turned in a circle, trying to remember. "Mom? Dad?" he called out. His voice sounded small in the big forest. No answer came back. Back at the clearing, David looked at his watch. Lucas had been gone for 15 minutes. "Where is that boy?" he muttered. "Lucas," David called out. "Time to come back." Silence. David stood up, feeling worried. "Lucas, this isn't funny. Come back now." Still nothing. Sarah's face went pale. "David, where is he?" Emma took out her headphones. "What's wrong?" Lucas wandered off, David said, trying to stay calm. "He was right over there, but now I don't see him." They all started calling Lucas's name. Their voices echoed through the forest, but no response came back. David's heart began to beat faster. He told himself not to panic. Lucas was a smart boy. He would find his way back. But as the minutes passed and there was still no sign of his son, David felt real fear growing in his chest. "We need to look for him," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "Right now." David nodded. He tried to think clearly. "Okay, we stay together. We'll search in the direction he went. Everyone, keep calling his name." They entered the forest, shouting for Lucas. The trees seemed to swallow their voices. Every shadow looked like it might be Lucas, but it never was. An hour passed, then 2 hours. The sun was getting lower in the sky. David's throat was sore from shouting. Sarah was crying as she walked. Emma looked scared, all thoughts of her phone forgotten. "Lucas, please answer us." Sarah's voice broke as she called out again and again. David felt helpless. His son was lost somewhere in these woods. Night would come soon. Lucas was alone, probably scared, maybe hurt. The forest that had seemed so beautiful that morning now felt dark and threatening. As the sun began to set, David made a decision. They couldn't search in the dark. They needed help. They needed it fast. But getting help in the middle of the wilderness would not be easy. And David had no idea that getting anyone to listen would be the hardest part of all. David knew they had to do something fast. The sun was almost gone. The forest was getting darker by the minute. Lucas had been missing for over 2 hours. "We need to go back to camp," David said. His voice was tight with worry. "I'll make an SOS signal, then hike out to find a phone signal." Sarah grabbed his arm. "We can't just leave him out there." "We're not leaving him," David said gently. "But we need help. Professional help. Search and rescue teams with equipment and training." Emma was shaking. She had never seen her parents like this. "What if something happens to Lucas tonight?" David pulled his daughter into a hug. "Your brother is smart. He has his backpack with some snacks and water. He'll find shelter and wait for us." They made their way back to the clearing as darkness fell. David used his flashlight to guide them. Every sound in the forest made Sarah jump. Every shadow made her heart race. At the clearing, David worked quickly. He had learned wilderness survival skills years ago. He gathered rocks and arranged them in a large SOS pattern. He took their bright orange rain jackets and spread them on the ground to spell help. From the air, these signals might be seen. Then David took his emergency whistle and blew 3 sharp blasts. 3 of anything was a distress signal. 3 whistle blows, 3 fires, 3 gunshots. He blew the whistle again and again, hoping Lucas might hear it and know they were looking for him. Sarah sat on the ground, her arms wrapped around Emma. Both of them were crying quietly. David tried to stay strong, but inside he was terrified. They spent the worst night of their lives at that clearing. Nobody slept. They kept a fire burning all night, hoping Lucas might see the light. David blew the whistle every hour. They called Lucas's name until their voices were almost gone. When the first light of dawn came, David stood up. His body was stiff and tired, but he had to move. "I'm going to find a phone signal and call for help," he announced. I'm coming with you, Sarah said. No, stay here with Emma. If Lucas comes back, someone needs to be here. Keep the fire going, keep blowing the whistle. David kissed his wife and started walking. He knew there was a high ridge about a mile away. If anywhere had cell service, it would be there. The hike felt endless. David's legs were tired from the previous day. His mind kept showing him terrible images of what might have happened to Lucas. He pushed these thoughts away and walked faster. At the top of the ridge, David pulled out his phone. No signal. He walked along the ridgeline, holding his phone up. Finally, one bar appeared, then 2 bars. With shaking hands, David dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? A calm voice answered. My son is lost in the Appalachian forest. David spoke quickly. He's 12 years old. He's been missing since yesterday afternoon. We need search and rescue immediately. The operator asked questions. David gave her all the information, their location, when Lucas disappeared, what he was wearing, everything. Sir, I'm forwarding this to the local ranger station, the operator said. They handle wilderness rescues in that area. Please hurry, David begged. My son has been out there all night. David waited on that ridge for 20 minutes. Finally, his phone rang. It was a ranger named Chen. Mr. Kim, I received your report, Ranger Chen said. His voice sounded relaxed, almost bored. Tell me about your son. David explained everything again. He tried to make Ranger Chen understand how serious this was. Okay, Mr. Kim, I understand you're worried, Ranger Chen said slowly. But I want you to stay calm. Kids wander off all the time in these woods. About 90% of them find their way back within 24 hours. But what about the other 10%? David's voice rose. My son is 12 years old and alone in the wilderness. We have a situation on the east side of the park right now, Ranger Chen continued. A rock climbing accident, 3 people injured. We have most of our search and rescue team there. David couldn't believe what he was hearing. So, you're not coming? I didn't say that, Mr. Kim. We'll send someone when we can. But your son has only been missing for about 16 hours. Our policy is to give it 24 hours for minors who wandered off during daylight hours. 24 hours? Are you serious? David was shouting now. My son could die out there. Mr. Kim, please calm down. Your son probably found a place to sleep and will walk out this morning. Kids are tougher than you think. Stay at your location, keep signaling, and we'll check in with you this afternoon. The call ended. David stared at his phone in disbelief. They weren't coming. Not right away. His son was lost and alone, and the people who were supposed to help didn't think it was urgent enough. David walked back to the clearing. His face must have shown the bad news because Sarah started crying again before he even spoke. They're not coming, David said. His voice was flat. They say we have to wait. They're busy with something else. No, Sarah screamed. No, no, no. They have to come. They have to find our baby. Emma stood up. This is crazy. How can they not help? David felt angry and helpless. He was just a regular person, an accountant. He didn't have power or connections. He couldn't force anyone to help him. And his son was paying the price. We'll keep searching ourselves, David said. We'll search every inch of this forest if we have to. They spent the whole day searching. They walked different trails, calling Lucas's name over and over. They looked behind rocks, in small caves, near water sources, anywhere a scared boy might hide or rest. But the forest was huge. Miles and miles of trees and hills and valleys. 3 people searching on foot felt useless. David knew they needed more help. They needed dogs to track Lucas's scent. They needed helicopters with heat-sensing cameras. They needed experienced search teams who knew these woods. By late afternoon, they were exhausted. Their voices were almost gone. Sarah could barely walk. Emma's face was sunburned and her feet had blisters. They returned to the clearing. David made the SOS signals bigger. He gathered more bright-colored items from their camping gear and spread them out. He kept thinking about helicopters flying over and not seeing them. As the sun set on the second day, Sarah broke down completely. She collapsed on the ground, sobbing. My baby is out there. He's scared and alone and probably hurt, and nobody cares. Nobody is helping us. David held his wife and daughter. He felt like a failure. He was supposed to protect his family. He was supposed to keep them safe. Instead, his son was lost in the wilderness, and he couldn't get anyone to help find him. Emma sat quietly, tears running down her face. Then something occurred to her. "Dad, my phone. I haven't checked social media since we got here." David looked at her. "What?" "Social media," Emma repeated. "If the Rangers won't help us, maybe other people will. We need to tell everyone what happened." David didn't know if it would work, but at this point, they had nothing to lose. "Okay," he said. "Let's try." Emma picked up her phone. She had been saving her battery, so she still had some power. They walked to the ridge where there was signal, and Emma began to type a message that would change everything. Emma's fingers moved quickly over her phone screen. She knew exactly what to do. This was her world. Social media was how her generation communicated, how they shared information, how they made things happen. She opened Instagram first. She chose the best photo of Lucas, one from that morning before the hike. He was smiling, wearing his blue jacket and holding his camera. He looked happy and full of life. Emma began to type. "Please help us. My 12-year-old brother Lucas is lost in the Appalachian wilderness in Virginia. He has been missing for over 24 hours. The Rangers say they are too busy to search for him. He is alone, scared, and we don't know if he is hurt. Please share this. Please help us find him." She added their location, what Lucas was wearing, and any details that might help. Then she added hashtags. Many hashtags. She knew how social media worked. The right hashtags could make a post go viral. She typed, "Find Lucas, missing child, Virginia, Appalachian, help find Lucas, search and rescue, missing, please share, lost in the woods." Emma hit post. Then she did the same thing on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Different platforms reached different people. She needed all of them. "Will this work?" Sarah asked. Her voice was weak with exhaustion and fear. "I don't know, Mom," Emma said honestly, "but it's better than doing nothing." They walked back to the camp as darkness fell again. Another night without Lucas. Another night not knowing if he was okay. Sarah cried herself to sleep. David sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Emma checked her phone one more time before she tried to sleep. Her heart jumped. The Instagram post had 50 shares already. People were commenting. People she didn't even know. "I'm praying for Lucas. Shared to all my groups. This is terrible. Why aren't the Rangers helping? Sharing from California, hope he is found safe," as Emma showed her parents. David felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this would work. Maybe enough people sharing would put pressure on someone to help. By morning, Emma's post had been shared thousands of times. Her phone was flooded with notifications. People from all over the country were commenting, sharing, and praying for Lucas. Local news stations had picked up the story. A reporter named Jennifer Martinez from Channel 7 News called Emma's phone. "Is this Emma Kim?" Jennifer asked. "I saw your post about your missing brother. Can we talk?" Emma put the phone on speaker so her parents could hear. "Yes, please, we need help. My brother has been missing for 2 days and nobody is searching for him." Jennifer asked questions. Emma answered honestly. She told Jennifer about how the Rangers said they were too busy. She told her about spending 2 nights in the forest, searching alone. "Can we use your story on the evening news?" Jennifer asked. "This might get more attention for Lucas." "Yes," Emma said immediately. "Use anything you want, just help us find my brother." That afternoon, Channel 7 News ran the story. Jennifer Martinez stood in front of a camera and told Lucas's story to thousands of viewers. She showed Emma's social media posts. She interviewed a wilderness expert who said that waiting 24 hours for a missing child was not standard procedure. Other news stations picked up the story. By evening, Lucas's face was on television screens across Virginia. The hashtag, #WhereFindLucas, was trending on Twitter. People were getting angry. Comments flooded social media. How can the Rangers ignore a missing child? This is disgraceful. That boy needs help now. I'm calling the ranger station. This is unacceptable. The ranger station's phone lines were overwhelmed. People called demanding action. People sent angry emails. The pressure was building. But still, no search teams came. David felt frustrated. Social media attention was good, but they needed actual people searching. They needed boots on the ground. That afternoon, a group of local volunteers arrived at the parking area. About 20 people, many of them parents themselves. They had seen the news story and decided to help. A man named Robert introduced himself. We're not professional search and rescue, but we want to help. We brought extra supplies, flashlights, and first aid kits. Sarah hugged Robert, crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. The volunteers spread out through the forest. They called Lucas's name. They searched areas the Kim family hadn't reached. It felt good to have help, even if it wasn't official. But as evening approached, the volunteers had to leave. Many of them had jobs and families. They promised to come back the next day, but David knew that volunteers without proper equipment could only do so much. That night was the third night. 3 nights that Lucas had been alone in the wilderness. David couldn't stop thinking about all the dangers. Wild animals, cliffs, streams where a person could slip and drown. The temperature dropped at night. Lucas might have hypothermia. Emma checked her phone constantly. The post had been shared over 50,000 times now. Lucas's story had spread across the country. People in California, Texas, New York, and Florida were talking about the boy lost in Virginia. A woman in Montana sent a donation to help with any costs. A man in Ohio offered to drive to Virginia to join the search. People Emma had never met were showing they cared. But caring wasn't enough. They needed professional help. On the morning of the 4th day, Emma was scrolling through the comments on her Instagram post when she saw something that made her gasp. Mom, Dad, look at this. She showed them her phone. One of the comments was from a verified account, a blue check mark next to the name. The comment read, I saw your post. I want to help. Sending you a direct message now. The name on the account was John Cena. David stared at the screen. The John Cena? The wrestler? Yes. Emma's hands were shaking. He just sent me a direct message. He wants our phone number. Sarah couldn't believe it. Why would John Cena care about our story? Emma read the direct message out loud. I saw what happened to your brother. I saw that the Rangers aren't helping. This is not right. I have connections with search and rescue teams. I want to help you find Lucas. Please call me at this number. David looked at the phone number. This couldn't be real. Could it? Was this some kind of prank? Only one way to find out, Emma said. She dialed the number. The phone rang twice. Then a voice answered. A voice that David recognized from television and movies. Hello, this is John. Is this the Kim family? Emma's voice came out as a squeak. Yes, this is Emma. You said you want to help find my brother? Absolutely, John Cena said. His voice was warm and serious. I have a younger brother myself. When I saw your post, I couldn't just scroll past it. Tell me everything. Where are you? What resources do you have? What do you need? Emma started crying as she explained their situation. She told John about the Rangers not coming. She told him about the volunteers who tried to help but didn't have equipment. She told him about 3 nights of searching and finding nothing. John listened carefully. Okay, he said when Emma finished. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm in Virginia right now for a charity event in Richmond. I'm going to make some calls. I know people who run private search and rescue operations, people with thermal drones and trained dogs, and I'm going to call that ranger station myself. Why would you do this for us? David asked. His voice was shaking. You don't even know us. John was quiet for a moment. When I was 8 years old, I got lost in the woods during a family camping trip. I was only lost for 4 hours, but it felt like forever. I was scared and alone. I still remember that feeling. No child should go through that for 4 days. And no family should be ignored when they ask for help. Sarah was crying now. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, John said. Thank me when we find Lucas. I'm making calls right now. Stay by your phone. Help is coming. Real help. The call ended. The Kim family stood in shocked silence. Emma spoke first. Did that really just happen? Did John Cena really just say he's going to help us? David didn't know what to say. He had felt so helpless for 3 days. He had felt like nobody with power or influence cared about his son, and now one of the most famous people in the world was offering to help. Within an hour, Emma's phone rang again. It was John Cena. I've contacted a private search and rescue company called Mountain Rescue Services, John said. They have thermal imaging drones, experienced trackers, and K9 units. They're loading up their equipment right now. They'll be at your location by this evening. How much will this cost? David asked. Search and rescue operations were expensive. Don't worry about that, John said firmly. I'm covering all costs. The only thing that matters is finding Lucas. I also called the ranger station. John continued. Let's just say that when a celebrity calls and mentions that the story is all over the news, people suddenly become very available. Ranger Chen tells me that they can now spare a full team. They'll be starting a search operation at first light tomorrow. David felt like he could breathe for the first time in days. I don't know how to thank you. Find your son, John said simply. That's all the thanks I need. I'm also driving to your location. I'll be there tonight. I want to help with the search personally. After the call ended, David sat down heavily. His legs felt weak. Relief, hope, and exhaustion all hit him at once. Sarah held him tight. We're going to find him. We're really going to find Lucas. For the first time in 3 days, David believed her. The man reaching for his gun never got it out of his holster. Cena closed the distance between them in 3 powerful strides. He had spent 20 years in professional wrestling, learning how to control his body and his opponents. This wasn't a choreographed match, but the principles were the same: speed, power, and commitment. Cena grabbed the man's wrist before his fingers touched the gun. He twisted hard, using a technique he had learned from his martial arts training. The man cried out in pain and dropped to his knees. Cena kept the pressure on, forcing the man's arm behind his back. Don't move, Cena growled. The other 2 men were caught off guard. Torres rushed toward them, his military training evident in every movement. He wasn't armed with a gun, but he didn't need one. His hands were weapons. He struck the second man in the throat, a controlled hit that made breathing difficult but didn't cause permanent damage. The man gasped and fell backward. The third man tried to run. He headed toward the back of the warehouse where the vehicles were parked. But Lopez was faster. He tackled the man from behind, bringing him down hard onto the concrete floor. They struggled for a moment, but Lopez had the advantage. He got the man in a hold and yelled, "Stay down." The whole confrontation lasted less than 30 seconds. 3 armed criminals, taken down by 3 men who had trained for moments like this. But it wasn't over yet. There were still guns to secure and victims to protect. Sophia and the other 2 girls watched in shock and confusion. One moment they were about to be loaded into a van and taken to a ship. The next moment, a famous person was fighting their captors. It didn't seem real. Sophia wondered if she was dreaming, or hallucinating from lack of food and water. Torres quickly moved to the girls while Cena and Lopez secured the criminals. He pulled out a knife and started cutting through the zip ties on their wrists. You're safe now. We're here to help. Police are on the way. The girls looked at him with frightened eyes. They had been told lies before, promised they would be released if they cooperated. They didn't know if they could trust anyone anymore. Who are you? One girl asked. She was older than Sophia, maybe 16, with tired eyes that had seen too much. My name is Torres. That's my boss, John Cena. We saw your distress signal. We came to get you out. Sophia's eyes went wide. My signal? Someone saw it? It worked? It worked. A very smart man named Marcus in California saw it. He told us where you were. Tears started flowing down Sophia's face. Not tears of fear this time, but tears of relief. She had spent 3 days thinking no one would ever find her. 3 days believing she would be sold and taken away forever. But someone had seen her desperate messages in the digital darkness. Someone had cared enough to come. Cena had the first criminal secured. He used the man's own belt to tie his hands together. It wasn't perfect, but it would hold until police arrived. The man struggled and swore at Cena, who ignored him completely. His focus was on making sure these criminals couldn't hurt anyone. "Check them for weapons," Cena called to Torres. Torres searched all three men, finding 2 guns and several knives. He secured the weapons far away from the criminals. Now the situation was under control. 3 bad guys neutralized, 3 girls safe. But they weren't out of danger yet. They needed to get out of this warehouse and into police protection. Lopez pulled out his phone. "SWAT is 3 minutes away. I can hear sirens." Cena nodded. He walked over to where the girls were sitting. He knelt down to their eye level, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. Despite his size, he had a gentle way about him that put people at ease. "My name is John. You're safe now. Nobody is going to hurt you anymore. Can you tell me your names?" The oldest girl spoke first. "I'm Maya Johnson. I've been here for a week." The second girl was small with dark eyes. "Aria Kim. 5 days. Then Sophia, her voice shaking. "Sophia Rodriguez, 3 days. I sent the messages. I found a tablet and I sent messages. Did someone really see them?" Cena smiled. "Yes. A man named Marcus in Los Angeles saw them. He tracked your signal. He posted about it online. Millions of people saw it. The whole country has been looking for you 3. Your families have been searching, and now we've found you." Sophia broke down completely. She had been so strong for 3 days, so brave, figuring out the password, hiding her messages, hoping against hope that someone would notice, and now it had paid off. She was going to go home. Maya and Aria started crying too. The relief was overwhelming. They had all given up hope. They had all accepted that their lives were over. But somehow, impossibly, they were being rescued. Outside, the sirens got louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the broken windows. Tires screeched as police vehicles surrounded the warehouse. Cena could hear orders being shouted through bullhorns. "This is Tampa Police. Everyone inside, come out with your hands up." Cena stood up and called out. "This is John Cena. We have 3 victims secured and 3 suspects restrained. We're coming out." There was a pause. Then Detective Morrison's voice came through the bullhorn. "Mr. Cena, bring the victims out slowly. Keep your hands visible." Torres helped the girls to their feet. They were weak from days of limited food and water. Maya could barely walk. Lopez and Torres supported them, moving slowly toward the main door that Cena had crashed through minutes earlier. Cena made sure the criminals stayed down. He stood over them ready to stop any escape attempt, but they weren't going anywhere. They knew it was over. The girls stepped out into the night air. Police officers rushed forward with blankets and water. Paramedics were already there, ready to provide medical attention. The flashing lights and activity were overwhelming after days in the dark warehouse. Detective Morrison approached, his face a mixture of relief and anger. He was glad the girls were safe, but furious that Cena had ignored his orders. "Mr. Cena, you deliberately disregarded direct instructions from law enforcement. You could have been killed. You could have gotten those girls killed." Cena stepped out of the warehouse, his hands visible as instructed. "Detective, with all respect, those girls were about to be loaded into a van and taken to a ship. We had maybe 5 minutes before they disappeared forever. I did what I had to do. That wasn't your call to make." "Then whose call was it? Yours? Because you were still 12 minutes away. How many girls would you have found when you got here? 0. They would have been gone." Morrison had no answer for that. He knew Cena was right even if the methods were wrong. Sometimes results mattered more than procedures. SWAT officers entered the warehouse and brought out the 3 criminals. They were placed in separate police cars, their hands now properly cuffed. One of them spat at Cena as he passed. Cena didn't react. The man's anger meant nothing. What mattered was that he was caught. Sophia sat in an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket, sipping water slowly. A female police officer was talking to her gently, asking basic questions. "Where did they take you? How many men were there? Did they hurt you?" Sophia answered as best as she could, but she kept looking at Cena. He was standing with Detective Morrison, getting lectured about procedures and laws. But he had saved her. This famous person had kicked down a door and fought 3 armed men to save her. It was the bravest thing she had ever seen. Torres and Lopez were giving statements to other officers. They were prepared for possible charges: breaking and entering, assault, vigilante justice. But they also knew they had saved 3 lives. That had to count for something. Kim, who had stayed outside during the whole operation, was coordinating with the police dispatcher. He had recorded everything that happened, providing a timeline that would be crucial for the investigation. An ambulance carrying Maya left first. She needed immediate medical attention. She was dehydrated and had some injuries that required hospital care. Another ambulance prepared to take Arya. That left Sophia. A car screeched to a halt near the police line. A woman jumped out, ducking under the police tape. "Sophia! Sophia!" Sophia heard her mother's voice and started crying again. "Mama!" Police officers tried to stop Rosa Rodriguez, but Detective Morrison waved them off. He understood. This mother had been searching for her daughter for 3 days. She had earned the right to reach her. Rosa ran to the ambulance and grabbed Sophia, hugging her so tightly it almost hurt. "Mi hija, mi hija," she sobbed. My daughter. My daughter." Sophia's father Miguel arrived seconds later. He wrapped his arms around both of them, and the 3 of them held each other and cried. 3 days of fear and uncertainty melted away in that embrace. Their daughter was alive. She was safe. She was coming home. Cena watched from a distance. This was why he had acted. This moment right here. A family reunited. A child returned to her parents. No amount of lectures from Detective Morrison could make him regret this decision. Torres walked over to Cena. "Boss, we might be in some legal trouble." "Worth it," Cena said simply. Agreed. A news van pulled up. Then another. Then 5 more. Word had spread about the rescue. The same social media that had made Sophia's signal go viral was now broadcasting her rescue. Reporters tried to push forward, but police held them back. Detective Morrison approached Cena again. His expression had softened slightly. "The girls are saying you saved their lives. All 3 of them. Maya says they were about to be taken to a ship. She overheard the men talking about it." "So we were right. 5 more minutes and they would have been gone." Morrison nodded slowly. "I'm still not happy about how this went down, but I'm glad those girls are safe. The department will need full statements from you and your team. We'll cooperate completely." "And Mr. Cena? Off the record? Thank you. Those girls are alive because you acted." Cena nodded. That was all the acknowledgement he needed. Sophia called out to him. "Mr. Cena." He walked over to the ambulance. Rosa and Miguel were still holding their daughter, but Sophia reached out one hand to him. Cena took it gently. "You saved me," Sophia said. "You really came. I didn't think anyone would come." "A lot of people came, Sophia. Marcus, who found your signal, the police, my team. You saved yourself by being smart and brave enough to send those messages. Will you tell Marcus thank you for seeing my messages?" "I will, but you can thank him yourself. He's probably watching the news right now." In Los Angeles, Marcus Chen was indeed watching. His computer screens showed live news feeds from Tampa. He saw Sophia being hugged by her parents. He saw Cena talking to her. He saw the 3 criminals being loaded into police cars. His eyes filled with tears. He had done something that mattered. His boring job monitoring network traffic had led to saving 3 lives. He would never forget this night. Sophia squeezed Cena's hand. "You're a real hero." Cena shook his head. "No, you're the hero. You never gave up. You found a way to call for help even when it seemed impossible. That's real courage." The paramedics said it was time to take Sophia to the hospital for examination. Rosa and Miguel would ride with her. As the ambulance pulled away, Sophia looked back at Cena through the rear window. She raised her hand in a small wave. Cena waved back. Then he sat down on the curb, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off. His shoulder hurt from breaking down the door. His hands hurt from the fight. But none of that mattered. 3 girls were going home tonight. 3 families would sleep peacefully. 3 lives were saved. And somewhere in Los Angeles, a tech worker named Marcus Chen was learning that even small actions could change the world. Torres sat down next to Cena. Think we'll get arrested? Probably not, but if we do, it was worth it. Absolutely worth it. They sat in silence, watching police process the crime scene. The warehouse that had been a prison for 3 innocent girls was now just evidence. The criminals who had caused so much pain were in custody, and a digital SOS signal that had traveled 2,000 miles had brought a miracle. The hospital emergency room was busy even at 4 in the morning. Sophia sat on an examination table while doctors checked her vital signs. She was dehydrated and underweight from 3 days of limited food and water. She had bruises on her wrists from the zip ties. But physically, she would be okay. The doctors said she was lucky. Things could have been much worse. Rosa and Miguel stayed by her side every second. They refused to leave the room even when doctors suggested they wait outside. They had lost their daughter for 3 days. They weren't letting her out of their sight now. Detective Morrison arrived at the hospital an hour after Sophia. He needed to take her statement while events were fresh in her memory. He brought a female detective with him named Sarah Chen, who specialized in talking to young victims. They were gentle and patient, letting Sophia tell her story at her own pace. Sophia explained how it happened. She was walking home from school, taking her normal route. A van pulled up next to her. A man asked for directions. When she approached to help, another man grabbed her from behind. They put a cloth over her face that smelled sweet and chemical. Then everything went black. She woke up in the warehouse. 3 other girls were already there, but 2 of them had been taken away before Sophia could learn their names. That left Maya and Aria. The 3 of them were kept in the corner, given little food, and told they were being sold to people overseas. The men talked openly in front of them, assuming the girls wouldn't escape or tell anyone. They discussed ships and timing and prices. Sophia heard them say she was worth $20,000. Her life reduced to a price tag. I was so scared, Sophia told the detectives, her voice shaking. But I remembered something Mr. Cena said when he came to my school last year. Detective Morrison leaned forward. John Cena visited your school? Yes, he did an anti-bullying talk. He said even when things seem impossible, you never give up. You find a way, you keep trying. Rosa wiped tears from her eyes. She remembered that school assembly. She had even taken the day off work to attend because Sophia was so excited. Neither of them could have known how important those words would become. Sophia continued her story. The second day in the warehouse, one of the men brought in trash from the office area. Sophia saw a broken tablet in the bag. When the men left to get food, she dug through the trash and found it. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. I watched them type the password when they used the office computer, Sophia explained. They didn't know I was paying attention. So I tried the same password on the tablet. It worked. Detective Chen smiled. That was very smart thinking. The tablet battery was almost dead and I didn't have a charger, so I had to be careful. I would wait until they left, then turn it on for a few minutes and send messages. SOS, my name, Tampa. I sent hundreds of them to every app and website I could access. You did exactly the right thing, Detective Morrison said. Those messages saved your life and the lives of Maya and Aria. After the interview, the detective stepped out to compare notes. Sophia's story matched what Maya and Aria had told them. The 3 criminals in custody were part of a larger trafficking network. This warehouse was just one location. There were probably others. Down the hall, Maya was being treated for dehydration and malnutrition. She had been captive longer and was in worse shape, but doctors said she would recover. Her family had already arrived, her mother clutching her hand and refusing to let go. Aria was in another room with her parents. She was the quietest of the 3 girls, still processing what had happened. The trauma would take time to heal. All 3 girls would need counseling and support. But they were alive. They had a future. That was what mattered. At 6 in the morning, Marcus Chen's phone rang. He had been awake all night watching news coverage and reading updates. He saw an unknown number and almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Marcus? This is Detective Morrison from Tampa Police. I want to thank you for your quick thinking tonight. You saved 3 lives. Marcus didn't know what to say. He had just been doing his job, monitoring network traffic, following unusual signals. Anyone would have done the same, except most people wouldn't have. Most people would have dismissed it as a glitch. But Marcus paid attention. Is Sophia okay? Marcus asked. She's at the hospital with her family. She's asking about you. She wants to thank you personally. I was just tracking a signal. John Cena is the one who saved her. You both saved her, and we'd like to fly you out here to meet her if you're willing. The family wants to meet the man who heard their daughter's cry for help. Marcus felt emotions he couldn't name: pride, relief, disbelief. He had spent years behind a computer, thinking his work didn't really matter, thinking he should have chosen a different career, something more meaningful. But tonight, he had learned that every job matters. Every skill has value. His ability to track digital signals had saved 3 children from a horrible fate. I'd like that, Marcus said. When? How about this weekend? We'll arrange everything. You'll stay with the Rodriguez family, they insist. After the call ended, Marcus sat in his dark office. The sun was starting to rise over Los Angeles. He had worked the entire night shift. He should be exhausted. But he felt more awake than he had in years. He felt purpose. Back in Tampa, John Cena was at the police station giving his formal statement. He had been there for 2 hours, explaining every detail of the rescue. Torres and Lopez were in other rooms doing the same. The police needed complete accounts of what happened. Detective Morrison had decided not to press charges against them for breaking and entering. Given the circumstances and the positive outcome, the district attorney agreed. Cena and his team had technically broken the law, but they had also saved 3 lives. Sometimes the law had to be flexible. You got lucky, Morrison told Cena. Things could have gone very wrong in that warehouse. I know, but they didn't. Next time, let the professionals handle it. Next time, move faster and I won't have to. Morrison couldn't argue with that. The police had been cautious and careful following procedures. But procedures took time, and those girls didn't have time. Cena had acted when action was needed. It was reckless, but it worked. By noon, the story was everywhere. News channels around the world were covering it. Social media exploded with posts about the rescue. The hashtag #SaveSophia that had started the night before was now trending globally. People were calling Cena a hero. They were calling Marcus a hero. But the real story was about Sophia's courage and intelligence. A 14-year-old girl, scared and alone, had found a way to call for help using a broken tablet and a password she memorized. She had refused to give up. She had believed someone would hear her, and someone did. Cena's phone was flooded with calls and messages. News shows wanted interviews. His agent was calling about movie deals based on the story. Everyone wanted a piece of the narrative. But Cena ignored most of it. He wasn't interested in fame from this. He was just glad Sophia was safe. That afternoon, Cena visited the hospital again. He wanted to check on all 3 girls. Maya was sitting up in bed, eating real food for the first time in a week. She smiled when she saw him. You're really him, she said. I thought I was hallucinating when I saw you break down that door. Cena laughed. You weren't hallucinating. How are you feeling? Better. The doctors say I can go home tomorrow. My mom hasn't stopped crying since she got here. Happy tears, though. The best kind of tears. Aria was in the next room. She was smaller and younger than the other 2 girls. She looked at Cena with shy gratitude. Her father stood protectively next to her bed. Thank you for bringing our daughter home, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm glad I could help. Is Aria going to be okay? The doctors say yes. Physically anyway. The mental part will take longer. Cena understood. Trauma didn't heal overnight. These girls would carry the memory of their captivity for the rest of their lives. But with support and love, they could move forward. They could heal. Sophia's room was at the end of the hall. Cena knocked gently before entering. Rosa and Miguel were sitting on either side of Sophia's bed. Sophia looked much better than she had at the warehouse. Color had returned to her face. Her eyes were brighter. "Mr. Cena," she said, sitting up straighter. "Please call me John. How are you feeling?" "Much better. The doctors say I can go home tonight. I get to sleep in my own bed." "That's wonderful news." Rosa stood up and hugged Cena tightly. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You brought my baby home. I'm just glad I was in the right place at the right time." Miguel shook Cena's hand firmly. "You're a good man. Not many people would have done what you did." They talked for a while. Sophia told Cena about the tablet, about watching the men type the password, about sending message after message hoping someone would see. She talked about the fear and the uncertainty, but she also talked about the hope she held on to. "I kept thinking about your speech at my school," Sophia said. "You talked about this wrestler who broke his neck and everyone said he'd never recover, but he refused to give up. He worked hard and came back. You said that's what we should do in life. Never give up." Cena remembered that speech. It was one of dozens he gave every year at schools. He talked about perseverance and courage. He tried to inspire kids to be their best selves. He never thought his words would literally save a life. "You're the one who never gave up," Cena told her. "You found a way to survive. You found a way to call for help. That takes incredible courage." "I want to meet Marcus," Sophia said. "The man who saw my messages. Can I talk to him?" Cena pulled out his phone and sent Marcus a message. "Would you like to video chat with Sophia?" Marcus responded immediately. "Yes, I'm ready whenever she is." Cena set up a video call and handed his phone to Sophia. Marcus's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but happy. Sophia stared at him for a moment, then tears started flowing. "You saved me," she said. "You saw my messages. Nobody else did, but you did." Marcus wiped his own eyes. "I'm just glad I was paying attention." "You're very brave, Sophia. What you did was amazing. Are you really coming to visit?" "This weekend. Your family invited me. I can't wait to meet you in person." They talked for 10 minutes. Marcus explained how he found her signal, how he traced it, how he posted about it online. Sophia listened with fascination. She had sent those messages into the void, not knowing if anyone would ever see them. Learning that someone did, someone who cared enough to act, meant everything to her. After the call ended, Sophia looked at Cena. "I want to help other kids. Kids like me who might get taken. How can I do that?" "You already are helping. Your story is inspiring people. It's teaching people what to look for. It's making parents more careful. And when you're ready, if you want to speak about your experience, you can help even more." "I want to. I want other kids to know they should never give up, even when things seem impossible." Rosa started crying again. Her daughter had been through a nightmare. But somehow, Sophia was thinking about helping others. That was the kind of person she was. Strong, caring, brave. That evening, Sophia was discharged from the hospital. She walked out with her parents, wrapped in a blanket, ready to go home. News cameras captured the moment. Flashbulbs went off. Reporters shouted questions. But Sophia didn't stop to answer them. She just wanted to go home. Detective Morrison held a press conference outside the hospital. He explained what happened, praised the 3 girls for their courage, and acknowledged Cena's role in the rescue. He also mentioned Marcus Chen, the tech analyst who had started it all by noticing an unusual signal. "This case shows the power of paying attention," Morrison said. "Marcus Chen saw something that didn't look right and he acted. John Cena heard a cry for help and he responded, and Sofia Rodriguez refused to give up even in her darkest moment. Together, they created a miracle." The 3 criminals from the warehouse were charged with kidnapping, human trafficking, and a dozen other crimes. Investigators discovered they were part of a network that operated in 5 states. The FBI took over the case. More arrests were expected. Maya and Arya were also released from the hospital that evening. Both girls went home with their families. All three families were planning to meet together once the girls had recovered more. They had bonded through tragedy. They would support each other through the healing process. In Los Angeles, Marcus finally left his office. He had worked a full night shift plus most of the day. His boss told him to take the rest of the week off. He had earned it. As he drove home through the morning traffic, his phone buzzed constantly with messages. Friends he hadn't talked to in years were reaching out. News organizations wanted interviews. His company wanted to give him an award. Everyone wanted to celebrate what he did. But Marcus didn't feel like celebrating. He felt grateful. Grateful that he had paid attention. Grateful that Sophia had been smart enough to send those signals. Grateful that Cena had been brave enough to act. So many things had to go right for this story to have a happy ending. And somehow, they did. That night, Sophia slept in her own bed for the first time in 4 days. Rosa checked on her every hour, still not quite believing her daughter was home. Miguel sat outside her door, standing guard, even though the danger was past. Sophia dreamed, but not nightmares. She dreamed of the warehouse door exploding inward. She dreamed of Cena charging through like a superhero from a movie. She dreamed of going home. And when she woke up the next morning in her own room, with sunshine coming through her window, she smiled. She was safe. She was home. And she was never going to take a normal day for granted ever again. 6 months after the rescue, Sophia walked into her school cafeteria carrying a stack of flyers. The flyers advertised a new support group she was starting. A safe space for trafficking survivors and anyone who had experienced trauma. She had worked with her school counselor to get permission. The first meeting would be after school on Thursday. Sophia taped a flyer to the bulletin board near the entrance. Several students stopped to read it. Some looked curious. Others looked uncomfortable. Talking about trafficking and trauma wasn't easy. But Sophia believed it was necessary. "Are you really starting this group?" a girl named Emma asked. She was in Sophia's grade, but they had never been close friends. "Yes. I think people need a place to talk about difficult things." "Can anyone come? Or just people who have been through what you went through?" "Anyone who needs support. Sometimes the hardest part of trauma is feeling alone. Nobody should have to feel that way." Emma nodded slowly. "I might come. I haven't been trafficked, but something bad happened to me last year. I've never really talked about it." Sophia touched Emma's arm gently. "You don't have to share unless you want to. Just being there with people who understand can help." That Thursday, 12 students showed up to the first meeting. Sophia had expected maybe 5. The counselor, Mrs. Patterson, helped facilitate the discussion. The rules were simple. Everything shared in the group stayed confidential. No one had to talk if they didn't want to. Everyone would be respectful and supportive. Sophia opened the meeting by sharing part of her story. Not all the details, just enough to show that she understood pain and fear. Then she invited others to share if they felt comfortable. Emma spoke about being assaulted by an older student. A boy named Michael talked about losing his brother to suicide. A girl named Jennifer described years of emotional abuse at home. Each story was different, but the pain was universal. By the end of the hour, all 12 students were crying, but they were also smiling. They had found a place where they could be honest, where they didn't have to pretend everything was okay, where they were accepted and supported. "Same time next week?" Sophia asked. Everyone nodded. The support group was born. In Los Angeles, Marcus was working on his next project for the foundation. He wanted to create training programs for cybersecurity professionals, programs that would teach them how to spot digital signals from trafficking victims. If more people knew what to look for, more victims could be found. He partnered with universities and tech companies. They developed a certification course that taught signal detection, pattern recognition, and emergency response protocols. The course was offered free to anyone working in cybersecurity or law enforcement. Thousands of professionals took the training in the first 3 months. They learned the techniques Marcus had used to find Sophia. They practiced tracking hidden messages across different platforms. They studied case examples and best practices. The training worked. Within 6 months, Trained professionals had identified and reported 37 potential trafficking signals. Not all led to rescues, but 15 did. 15 more people were saved because Marcus shared his knowledge. Meanwhile, Signal Home continued growing. The app now had 10 million users worldwide. It had been translated into 23 languages. Schools in 30 countries were teaching students how to use it. The app had been credited with helping find over 60 missing or endangered children. Marcus received awards and recognition. Technology magazines wrote articles about him. Universities invited him to speak. But the recognition he valued most came from the families whose children were saved because of his work. One mother sent him a letter. Her daughter had been kidnapped by an estranged family member who took her across state lines. The daughter activated Signal Home, and police found her within 8 hours. "You gave me my child back," the mother wrote. "I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life." Marcus kept that letter on his desk. On difficult days, when the work felt overwhelming, he would read it and remember why this mattered. John Cena's foundation was thriving. The initial $5 million in donations had grown to $20 million. The foundation employed 50 people and operated programs in all 50 states. They had partnered with international organizations to expand globally. The foundation's work fell into 4 main areas. Prevention programs in schools taught children how to stay safe and recognize danger signs. Signal Home and other technology tools helped find missing children. Counseling services supported survivors in their recovery. And advocacy work pushed for stronger laws and better enforcement. Cena remained actively involved despite his busy schedule. He attended foundation events. He met with survivors and their families. He lobbied politicians for better trafficking laws. This had become more than just a charity for him. It was a mission. 3 famous celebrities joined the foundation board. They brought additional resources, connections, and publicity. The foundation's annual gala became a major event, raising millions of dollars and attracting national media attention. At the first annual gala, 9 months after the rescue, Sophia, Maya, and Aria were honored as guests of special recognition. All 3 girls attended with their families. They had stayed close over the months, supporting each other through therapy and recovery. Maya was doing well. She had returned to school and was catching up on the education she had missed during her week in captivity. She was quieter than before, more cautious around strangers. But she was healing. She had started running as a form of therapy, finding peace in the physical exertion. Aria was the most changed. The week she spent captive had left deep scars. She struggled with anxiety and nightmares. She had switched to online school because being around large groups of people triggered panic attacks. But she was working hard in therapy and making slow progress. Some days were better than others. Sophia had emerged as the most vocal of the 3. Her support group at school had grown to 30 regular members. She had given speeches at 4 other schools. She was becoming known as an advocate for trafficking survivors. Her strength inspired others. At the gala, the 3 girls stood together on stage while Cena introduced them. "These 3 young women represent everything this foundation stands for," he said. "They survived the unthinkable. They refused to give up hope, and now they're using their experience to help others. That's true courage." The audience of over 500 people gave them a standing ovation. Sophia felt tears on her cheeks but forced herself to smile. This was a happy moment. A moment to celebrate survival and resilience. After the gala, Sophia pulled Cena aside. "I want to do more," she told him. "The support group is good, but I want to reach more people. What if we created a program where survivors could speak at schools across the country?" Cena loved the idea. "Let's make it happen. We'll call it the Survivor Speaker Program. We'll train survivors who want to share their stories. We'll connect them with schools that want to educate their students. We'll provide support and resources to make sure it's done safely." Sophia grinned. "When can we start?" "How about next month?" The Survivor Speaker Program launched with 6 trained speakers, including Sophia. They received training on public speaking, trauma-informed education, and self-care. The foundation provided counselors to support them. And schools across the country began requesting speakers. Sophia gave her first official speech through the program at a high school in Orlando. 200 students filled the auditorium. She told her story with confidence and clarity. She explained how traffickers operated. She taught students the warning signs. She emphasized that this could happen to anyone. At the end of her speech, a girl approached her crying. "That almost happened to me," the girl said. "A man at the mall tried to get me to go with him. He said he was a modeling scout. But something felt wrong, so I left. After hearing your story, I realized he was probably a trafficker." Sophia hugged the girl. "You trusted your instincts. That probably saved your life." These moments made the work worthwhile. Every student who learned to recognize danger, every person who became more cautious, every potential victim who avoided a trafficker because they knew the warning signs. Each one was a victory. Maya eventually joined the speaker program too. Her story was different from Sophia's, but equally powerful. She spoke about the psychological tactics traffickers used, how they identified vulnerable targets, how they isolated victims from support systems. Her insights helped students understand the manipulation involved in trafficking. Arya wasn't ready to speak publicly yet. Maybe she never would be. But she found other ways to contribute. She wrote articles for the Foundation's blog. She created artwork about survival and recovery. She participated in private support groups with other survivors. Everyone healed differently, and that was okay. 1 year after the rescue, Sophia received a letter that changed everything. It was from a girl named Hannah in Seattle. Hannah had been trafficked for 2 months before being rescued. She had seen Sophia's speech on YouTube, and it had given her hope. "I thought my life was over," Hannah wrote. "I thought I would never be normal again. But watching you speak, seeing how strong you are, I realized I could survive too. You saved my life in a different way. You showed me that recovery is possible. Thank you." Sophia cried when she read the letter. She had shared her painful story, hoping it would help someone. Now she had proof that it did. She wrote back to Hannah immediately, offering support and encouragement. They became pen pals, 2 survivors connecting across the distance. The letters kept coming. Dozens, then hundreds. Survivors thanking Sophia for giving them hope. Parents thanking her for educating their children. Teachers thanking her for addressing a difficult topic. Each letter was a reminder that pain could be transformed into purpose. Detective Morrison continued working trafficking cases. The bust at the warehouse had opened his eyes to the scope of the problem. He now specialized in trafficking investigations and worked closely with the FBI. He had been part of rescuing 32 additional victims over the past year. Morrison attended Sophia's support group sometimes as a guest speaker. He taught students about online safety and what to do if they were ever in danger. The students respected him because he respected them. He didn't talk down to them or minimize their concerns. He treated them as partners in creating safer communities. Agent Williams was promoted within the FBI. She now led the Human Trafficking Task Force for the entire Southeast region. The arrests made from the warehouse investigation had destroyed a major trafficking network, but she knew there were others. The fight was ongoing. Williams stayed in touch with Sophia, Maya, and Arya. She checked on them periodically, making sure they were safe and supported. She also worked with the Foundation on policy initiatives. They pushed for stronger federal laws against trafficking. They advocated for more resources for survivors. They demanded better training for law enforcement. Some of their advocacy efforts succeeded. Congress passed new legislation increasing penalties for trafficking and providing more funding for victim services. The bill was nicknamed Sophia's Law in honor of the girl whose courage had sparked a national conversation. When Sophia heard about the law, she felt overwhelming pride. Her nightmare had led to changes that would protect other children. Her suffering had not been meaningless. Something good had come from something terrible. Sophia was invited to Washington, D.C. for the bill signing ceremony. She stood in the Capitol building surrounded by senators and representatives. The president signed Sophia's Law while cameras flashed and reporters took notes. Sophia shook the president's hand, barely believing this was real. "You're an inspiration to the country," the president told her. "Your courage has made a difference." That evening, Sophia FaceTimed with Marcus and Cena. "Did you see it? Did you see the law get signed?" "We watched it live," Marcus said. "You were amazing. This is your law," Cena added. "Your voice changed the country." Sophia felt tears coming but fought them back. "It's our law. All of ours. We did this together." And it was true. Marcus had seen the signal. Cena had acted. Sophia had survived. Torres and his team had helped with the rescue. Detective Morrison had built the case. Agent Williams had expanded the investigation. The Foundation had educated millions. Every person had played a role. That night, Sophia updated her blog. She wrote about the bill signing, about Sophia's law, about how one terrible night had led to nationwide change. She wrote about hope and healing. She wrote about the power of refusing to give up. Her blog post was shared 50,000 times. The message reached millions. And somewhere, a teenager in danger read Sophia's words and decided to keep fighting. Keep hoping. Keep believing that rescue was possible. Because Sophia had proven it was. She had sent a signal into the darkness. Someone had heard, and now her voice was echoing across the country, giving hope to everyone who needed it. The support group continued meeting every Thursday. It had grown to 40 regular members. They met in a larger room now, and Mrs. Patterson had recruited another counselor to help facilitate. The group had become an essential part of the school community. Students shared their struggles and celebrated their victories. They supported each other through difficult times. They learned that trauma didn't define them. They learned that healing was possible. They learned that they were stronger than they knew. Sophia looked around the room at the faces of her friends. Emma, who had found the courage to report her assault. Michael, who was learning to process his grief. Jennifer, who had left her abusive home and was living with relatives. And 37 others, each with their own story, each choosing to heal. This was Sophia's purpose. Not the speeches or the laws or the recognition. This room, these people, this support. This was why she had chosen to turn her pain into something meaningful. "Before we end today's meeting," Sophia said, "I want to remind everyone of something. We are not victims anymore. We are survivors. And we are not alone. We have each other. We have people who love us. We have hope. And that's everything." The group joined hands in a circle. 40 voices spoke together. "We are survivors. We are strong. We are not alone." And in that moment, in that room, it was absolutely true. 1 year after the rescue, the Rodriguez family stood on a beach in Tampa Bay. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sophia stood at the water's edge, her feet in the sand, watching the waves roll in and out. It was peaceful. It was safe. It was home. Rosa walked up beside her daughter and put an arm around her shoulders. "How are you feeling, mi amor?" "Good, really good. I was just thinking about how different everything is now." "Different how?" "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I would never see you and Dad again. I thought I would never stand on this beach again. But here I am. Not just surviving, but actually living." Rosa kissed the top of Sophia's head. "You're the bravest person I know." Miguel joined them, carrying a small cake with a single candle. 1 year, he said. 1 year since we got you back." They had decided to mark this anniversary not with sadness but with celebration. 1 year of having their daughter home. 1 year of healing. 1 year of rebuilding their lives. The trauma would always be part of their story, but it wouldn't define them. Sophia blew out the candle and made a wish. She wished for all the missing children to be found, for all the survivors to heal, for all the traffickers to be caught. It was a big wish, maybe impossible. But Sophia believed in fighting for impossible things. Her phone buzzed with messages. Maya and Aria texting their love and support on this anniversary. Marcus sending a photo of himself at the Foundation office. Cena recording a video message congratulating her on a year of courage and growth. Detective Morrison checking in as he did every few weeks. Agent Williams sharing news about another trafficking network being shut down. All these people connected by one terrible night and the miracle that followed. They were family now, bound by shared experience and purpose. That evening, the foundation held a special event to mark the anniversary. It wasn't a gala or fundraiser. It was a memorial service for trafficking victims. Some who had been rescued, some who were still missing, some who had been lost forever. Over 200 people attended, survivors and their families, law enforcement officers who had worked trafficking cases, foundation staff and volunteers, advocates and activists, people who had dedicated themselves to ending this crime. 43 candles were lit, one for each victim connected to the network that had held Sophia, Maya, and Aria. 31 candles were white, representing victims who had been found and returned home. 12 candles were red, representing victims still missing. Each name was read aloud, each life was honored. Sophia stood with Maya and Aria as the names were called. They held hands, tears streaming down their faces. Some of these victims had been in the same warehouses they had been in. Some had been moved before Sophia and the others arrived. Some had been sold and taken away. But all of them mattered. All of them deserved to be remembered. When the ceremony ended, Marcus stood to address the crowd. He was more comfortable behind a computer than in front of people. But this was important. 1 year ago, I was sitting in an office doing my job. He began. I saw something unusual on my screen. I could have ignored it. I could have dismissed it as a glitch. But I paid attention, and that decision changed everything. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I think about that night a lot, about all the things that had to go right for Sophia to be saved. She had to be brave enough to send messages. I had to be watching at the right moment. Cena had to see my social media post. He had to be willing to act. Police had to arrive before the traffickers escaped. So many pieces had to fall into place. Marcus looked at Sophia. But they did fall into place, and 3 girls came home. I want everyone here to know that your actions matter. Your attention matters. Your courage matters. You might be the person who sees something unusual, who notices someone in trouble, who acts when others hesitate, and your action could save a life. The crowd applauded. Marcus sat down, his face flushed, but his message delivered. He was right. Every person had the power to make a difference. They just had to choose to use it. Next, Cena took the stage. He looked out at the crowd with his trademark intensity softened by genuine emotion. I've been called a hero for what happened that night, Cena said. But I wasn't the hero. Sophia was the hero for finding a way to call for help. Marcus was the hero for seeing her signal. Torres and Lopez were heroes for putting themselves at risk. Detective Morrison was the hero for building a case that led to dozens of arrests. Agent Williams was the hero for dismantling an entire trafficking network. He paused. The real heroes are the survivors in this room, the people who endured the unimaginable and chose to keep living, who turned their pain into purpose, who are helping others so no one else has to suffer what they suffered. That's heroism. That's courage. Cena's voice grew stronger. This foundation has saved 63 lives in the past year through Signal Home and our other programs. We've provided counseling to over 200 survivors. We've educated 500,000 students about trafficking prevention. We've helped pass legislation in 12 states, and we're just getting started. More applause. The foundation had accomplished so much in just 1 year. But Cena knew there was still so much work to do. Thousands of children were still being trafficked every year. Thousands more were at risk. The fight was far from over. Sophia was the last speaker of the evening. She walked to the microphone wearing the signal wave necklace Marcus had given her. She had worn it every day for a year. It reminded her of her own strength. 1 year ago tonight, I was terrified. Sophia began. I was in a warehouse with 2 other scared girls waiting to be sold. I had sent hundreds of messages hoping someone would see them. I had almost given up hope, but I held on just a little longer. And that made all the difference. She scanned the crowd, making eye contact with as many people as possible. I want to talk to anyone out there who is scared right now. Anyone who is trapped. Anyone who thinks no one is coming. Don't give up. Even when it seems impossible, keep fighting. Keep hoping. Keep believing that rescue is possible. Because somewhere someone is looking for you. Someone cares. Someone is coming. Sophia's voice cracked with emotion, but she pushed forward. And I want to talk to everyone else, all of you who are safe. All of you who have the power to help. Pay attention. Notice when something seems wrong. Act when someone needs help. Share information that might save a life. You have more power than you realize. She held up her necklace. This represents the signal I sent. A signal that traveled 2,000 miles and reached someone who cared. Your signal matters too. Your voice matters. Your action matters. Together, we can create more miracles. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Sophia stepped back from the microphone, overwhelmed by the response. Rosa and Miguel rushed to hug her. Marcus wiped tears from his eyes. Cena nodded with pride. This young woman had turned her nightmare into a mission. She had refused to let her trauma define her. After the ceremony, people mingled and shared stories. A woman approached Sophia with a teenage daughter. "This is Hannah," the woman said. "From Seattle. She wrote to you." Sophia's eyes widened. "Hannah, you're here?" Hannah nodded shyly. "I wanted to meet you in person. To thank you. Your story saved my life." Sophia hugged her tightly. They had been pen pals for months, but this was their first face-to-face meeting. Two survivors, connected across the miles, supporting each other's healing. "How are you doing?" Sophia asked. "Better. Some days are hard, but I'm better. Your letters help. Knowing that you understand. I'm always here if you need me." They exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. This was happening all over the room. Survivors meeting each other, families connecting, people forming bonds through shared experience. The foundation had created not just programs, but a community. Detective Morrison stood in a corner talking with Agent Williams. They were discussing a new case, always working, always fighting. Morrison had rescued 15 more trafficking victims in the past year. Williams had led investigations that resulted in 83 arrests. Their work never stopped. Torres and Lopez were there too, along with Kim, the security team that had helped with the warehouse rescue. They had been profiled in several news stories about the rescue. Some people criticized them for acting recklessly. Others praised them for saving lives. They didn't care about the opinions, they knew they had done the right thing. As the evening wound down, Sophia's phone buzzed with a notification. Her blog post from that morning had been shared 100,000 times. The post was titled, "1 year later, from victim to survivor to advocate." In it, she had written about her journey over the past year. The therapy, the nightmares, the support group, the speaking engagements, the healing. She had been honest about the difficult parts. Recovery wasn't linear. Some days she felt strong and confident. Other days she felt broken and scared. But she kept moving forward. She kept choosing hope over despair. She kept believing that her life had purpose. The post ended with a challenge to readers. If you see something wrong, say something. If someone needs help, help them. If you have a skill that could make a difference, use it. We all have the power to change someone's life. Will you use yours? Apparently, 100,000 people had been inspired to share that message. Sophia hoped even more would see it, would take it to heart, would choose to act when the moment came. At midnight, Sophia sat in her bedroom back home. She opened her laptop and started a new blog post. She titled it, "Looking Forward, Year 2." She wrote about her plans for the future. She would continue the support group, continue speaking at schools, continue working with the foundation. She had also decided to focus more on her education. She wanted to study computer science like Marcus. She wanted to learn how to use technology to find missing people. "Marcus showed me that technology can be used for good," she wrote. "He used his skills to save my life. Now I want to develop those same skills so I can save others. I want to be the person who sees the signal, who pays attention, who acts." She also wrote about her dreams beyond the immediate future. College, a career helping trafficking survivors, maybe starting her own nonprofit someday, writing a book about her experience, using her voice and her story to create change. "1 year ago, I didn't think I had a future," she wrote. "Now I see endless possibilities. That's the gift of survival. Not just being alive, but actually living, actually dreaming, actually believing in tomorrow. She finished the post and scheduled it to publish the next morning. Then she closed her laptop and looked around her room. Her posters on the walls, her books on the shelves, her comfortable bed, her safe space. 1 year ago, she had thought she would never see this room again, never sleep in this bed, never feel safe again. But here she was. Home. Safe. Healing. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from Maya. "Thank you for being strong for all of us. Your courage makes me believe I can be courageous too." Sophia smiled and typed back, "We make each other strong. That's what survivors do." She put her phone on her nightstand and turned off the light. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More work with the foundation. More students to educate. More survivors to support. But tonight, she would sleep peacefully in her own bed, grateful for another day of freedom. In Los Angeles, Marcus was still at the foundation office. He was working on an update to Signal Home based on user feedback. The app was good, but it could be better. Faster response times, more accurate location tracking, better disguise features. Every improvement could save more lives. His phone showed a photo he had taken at the memorial service. Sophia, Maya, and Arya standing together, holding their memorial candles. 3 girls who had survived, 3 girls who were healing, 3 girls who were making a difference. Marcus printed the photo and pinned it to his office wall. It would remind him every day why this work mattered, why late nights and difficult problems were worth it. Those 3 faces represented hope, represented survival, represented the power of technology used for good. At his home in Tampa, John Cena looked at his phone before bed. Messages from survivors thanking him, updates from the foundation, news articles about another trafficking network being shut down. The fight was ongoing, but progress was being made. He thought about that night 1 year ago. The decision to act instead of wait. The door exploding inward. The look of hope in Sophia's eyes when she realized rescue had come. That moment had changed him, had given him purpose beyond entertainment and fame. "Worth it," he said to himself, just as he had said to Torres that night. Absolutely worth it. Across the country and around the world, children slept safely in their beds. Some because Signal Home had helped find them. Some because they had learned to recognize danger thanks to foundation education programs. Some because Sophia's story had inspired someone to pay attention, to act, to care. The signal Sophia had sent 1 year ago continued to echo. It had traveled through digital networks to Marcus's computer, through social media to millions of people, through news coverage to even more. And now through the foundation's work to countless children who would never have to experience what Sophia experienced. One signal, one brave girl, one attentive tech worker, one willing celebrity, one coordinated rescue, and the ripples continued spreading, touching lives, saving children, creating change. Sofia Rodriguez had sent an SOS into the darkness. Someone had heard, someone had acted, and now, 1 year later, the world was a little bit safer because of it. That was the power of refusing to give up, the power of one person seeing another person in need, the power of courage in the face of fear, the power of hope when everything seemed hopeless. Sophia lay in her bed, the signal wave necklace still around her neck. She touched it gently, remembering the messages she had sent, remembering the fear and the hope mixed together, remembering the moment John Cena burst through that door. But mostly, she thought about tomorrow, about the students she would speak to, the survivors she would support, the difference she would make. She thought about her future, which had once seemed non-existent but now stretched out before her full of possibility. 1 year ago she had sent a signal. Today she was the signal, a beacon of hope for anyone trapped in darkness, a voice saying, "Don't give up, help is coming, you will survive, you will heal, you will live." And somewhere in the night, a scared teenager saw Sophia's message online, read her story, found hope in her words, and decided to hold on just a little longer. Because Sophia had proven that miracles were possible, that signals could be heard, that rescue could come, that life after trauma was worth living. The signal continued spreading. The ripples continued expanding. And 3 girls who had survived the unimaginable continued inspiring the world with their courage. 1 year after the rescue, Sofia Rodriguez smiled in her sleep. She was home. She was safe. She was healing. And she was making a difference. That was everything.